Hey everyone, and welcome back to Mull It Over. This week, we take a dive into one of the newer archetypes that emerged from the Forged in the Barrens expansion, Rush Warrior. Given its strength versus Miracle Rogue and solid matchup spread once you ban Priest, it was a popular bring in both weeks of LHS. Across all matchups, the best card to keep is Imprisoned Gnarg. It's your most effective turn 1 play because the weapon waking up turn 3 is often right on time to deal with the expected size of minion most decks will develop by then, and it's also kept against slower decks like Priest and OTK Demon Hunter because it's a poor top deck towards the late game. While the guaranteed weapon is generally the higher impact aspect of the card, especially for the lists that run Cutting class, Imprisoned Gnarg also has the Demon minion type, and thus synergizes with Tent Trasher. We see Shaxi keep those two cards together when he faces Possessi's Miracle Rogue. With a turn 1 Gnarg, Shaxi can get the Trasher down as early as turn 3 when the Demon wakes up if he saves the coin, which is a premium answer to Mancrick or Efficient Octobot from the Rogue. As it played out, Possessi played Cult Neophyte and not Octobot on turn 2, so Shaxi was free to develop his Parade Leader to challenge it. The Octobot came down on turn 3 instead, and it was the perfect Tent Trasher to deny the Frenzy discounts. Athletic Studies is also a very common keep to help the fluidity of your curve. With mana banked on turn 1, you can go for combos such as Parade Leader plus Bumper Car one turn earlier, or in some matchups, just land a singular threat a turn earlier. Letta keeps Studies alongside Overlord Runthak, presumably aiming to get its value on turn 4, a greedier line that's justifiable in slower matchups like Priest. When he faces Yarla's Mage, Letta's situation is a bit different. He skips the turn 1 Studies because he wants to play Bumper Car on turn 2 and not waste the discount. The same principle to how Token Druid might skip Nature Studies on turn 1 if they're gonna play Guess the Weight on turn 2 anyway. If Letta had gone for turn 1 Studies, the only on-curve Discover option would be a 3-cost Rush minion discounted to 2, of which Rakara is the only one in Warrior's pool. Between the two 1-cost spells, Stage Dive is a bit more situational. It's more often kept on the coin than on the play, because you don't ideally play Stage Dive on turn 1 for no corrupt value. Going second, you're able to coin out Parade Leader or Bumper Car and immediately corrupt the Stage Dive. However, when you already have a turn 1 play going first, you can consider keeping the Stage Dive like Bunny Hopper does versus Casey's Paladin for guaranteed card draw later on. When Lampy Series faces Glory's Token Druid, he keeps both Studies and Stage Dive together. The card he wants most in this matchup is Blademaster Samuro, the premier answer to a Glowfly Swarm or Gibberling board. While you're unlikely to pull exactly the Samuro with Stage Dive, it at least thins the deck towards Samuro, and it's still decent to buff trading tools such as Crab Rider or Bumper Car. And the Studies, of course, allows Lambie to play those cards or a proactive threat more cheaply. Notably, he tosses Conditioning, as it's probably a bit too slow to wait for it to rank up going into a potential Glowfly turn from Glory. If he already had Samuro in the opening hand though, I'd suspect Conditioning becomes a keep. Holding on to Conditioning is standard in other matchups though, as Frenetic demonstrates versus Viper's Miracle Rogue. If you have enough resources, a rank 2 Conditioning gets your minions well out of range of Rogue's removal. But there's no more important matchup to keep it than in the Mirror, where the rhythm of back and forth trades is often broken by whoever lands the bigger hand buffs. The entire early game exchange between Monsanto and Language Hacker is emblematic of how to play the Mirror. With Conditioning in hand, it can feel wasteful to play minions before turn 5, but if you're too greedy in the early turns, you can get punished by a Tempo Playmaker or Rakara. So Monsanto develops his Parade Leader on turn 2, which potentially buffs his Bumper Car in hand and answers Hacker's threats. Bumper Car also regenerates tokens, so it's also good to play pre-conditioning. In response, Language Hacker has 3 options: rank 1 Conditioning to buff his guys, coin Warmaul to kill the Parade Leader, or just Bumper Car and nudge the Parade Leader. He goes with the third option, which is the best use of resources leading into coin Runthak on turn 4. Putting Monsanto's Parade Leader to 2 means that he can save more health on his Warmaul when it cleans up on turn 3, and the tokens he gets back will be buffed by Runthak and then double rank 2 Conditioning on turn 5. He'll fall behind before then, but after the hand buffs, he'll be able to take all the favorable trades. A situation where rank 1 Conditioning is solid comes up when Hacker later faces Monsanto's Miracle Rogue. With an Octobot on board, the rank 1 Conditioning boosts Rakara up to 3 attack this turn. That means that if Monsanto plays another minion, Hacker can rush his Rokara into it and she'd buff herself to 4 attack, which the Octobot cannot proc its Frenzy into. That's exactly how it pans out with Monsanto's Foxy Fraud. Next, let's talk about the 2-drops, Bumper Car and Parade Leader. Bumper Car itself is a solid keep in many matchups as a guaranteed turn 2 play that regenerates resources. We see Bunny Hopper keep it versus Casey's Miracle Rogue, and he plays it even when it's immediately dead on board to Casey's Foxy Fraud, simply because he wants the cheap tokens that allow him to swing board in combination with either Playmaker or Parade Leader that he has in hand. Even against Casey's ideal turn 3 play of Mankrik, the Gunarg weapon in combination with Playmaker and tokens makes it very simple for Bunny to take back the board. When Letta faces Yarla's Weapon Rogue, he keeps the Parade Leader knowing it's quite inconvenient for Weapon Rogue to kill on curve as it conflicts with a possible coin into Swinetusk Shank turn. The matchup is definitely a race, and the warrior needs maximum attack on board, so the Parade Leader is the ideal start. And with the additional Bumper Car Letta picked up from Athletic Studies on turn 1, the turn 3 payoff is immense. Like Parade Leader, Playmaker is a card that has lots of combo potential, but can also come down alone for tempo in certain spots. RDU coins it out on turn 2 to challenge Boston's Efficient Octobot, as it's tricky for Rogue to remove this early if they don't have Brain Freeze. With Rokara in hand, it's pretty much game-winning if it stays on board, and so Boston has to go digging with Secret Passage just to find an answer. A few turns later, Boston plays his second Octobot, and RDU still doesn't have a one-shot way to kill it. However, with the Rokara surviving on board, RDU can take advantage of her synergy with Mull Challenger and create a huge board. If you can't deny the Rogue's discounts, just give them a 410 to deal with instead. Rokara herself is a strong keep when you're reasonably certain that you will have stuck at least one minion to the board by the time she comes down on turn 3. That's exactly what Give Please is going for when he keeps her with double Cult Neophyte versus Alan's Spell Mage. The first Neophyte coined out not only denies Alan's expected Encanter's flow play, the second one makes it such that if Alan goes flow on turn 3, Give Please sticks 2 minions with Rokara to follow up for max pressure. Even against a turn 3 Runed Orb, one Neophyte with Rokara would still be pretty powerful. As it happens, Alan avoids a complete disaster with devolving missiles to neuter the first Neophyte, but that's still a premium removal tool for Give Please to have drawn out early. The more niche cards such as Mull Challenger are good to keep in specific matchups. When RDU faces Frenetic's Face Hunter, he knows the Mull can kill off things like Volpertinger, Intrepid Initiate, and Kolkar Packrunner, and still take persistent trades with the 1/1 tokens that Hunter often puts forward. In this instance, the Mull kills off Kolak from Demon Companion, and later trades with a bunch of Marsoul Cubs. Every bit of damage saved matters versus Face Hunter, so even if it's low pressure, Mull Challenger is excellent. And finally, Ringmaster Watley is a strong keep in most matchups for guaranteed resources, especially when you're on the coin and can get it down on turn 4 and then follow up with rank 2 conditioning on tons of minions. You might throw it when the matchup calls for faster early minion pressure, such as versus Weapon Rogue though. And that's all for this episode. Rush Warrior is one of my favorite archetypes to watch in the current meta because it plays so differently from most warriors we've seen in Hearthstone before, and I expect it to still be popular alongside Control Warrior in the last week before playoffs. Catch you next time!